Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. My friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to explore topics related to living the intentional life. And I have a surprise for you. Well, maybe it's not so much of a surprise. If you saw my spoiler, my commercial, my short little teaser for this video on either Instagram or on my Facebook reel, then you probably already know that the new moon has already come and gone. I said that in the previous video. And that I have not only changed the decks, but I've also changed the spread a little bit. So now if you are new here, what is this? Every week I do a video in which I explore topics related to living the intentional life by laying out a spread of both tarot and oracle cards. And for quite a while, since summer of this year, I've been focusing primarily on the tarot of the Holy Light. And since I came back from my 50-day deep dive into the tarot of Holy Light and have gone back into this series, I've used the tarot of the Holy Light as the central portion of this spread. And I used a spread which I developed contemplating the Ace of Swords. And I used that for one lunar cycle. And I'm changing it. I'm not changing it because I'm bored with it by any means. I know that there's a lot to dive into with that spread. And there's more to explore with that spread. And I'll return to that spread, I'm sure. But I did something a little bit different. When I chose my decks, I just thought, heck, let's ask the Tarot of the Holy Light what spread it wants to do for me. I asked the Tarot of the Holy Light what spread it thinks would match this set of cards the best. And let me show you the spread it chose for me. Here it is. So, as I said, I was shuffling away and this card popped out. Not the Ace of Swords, but the Ace of Discs. Let me show you a little bit more closer. The Ace of Discs popped out. And I thought to myself, okay, so we want another ace. That's good. That's a good sign. That's a good sign that it really was answering my question. What kind of spread? Not the Ace of Swords this time, but the Ace of Discs. And what do we see in this card? We see in the center a sun with a big old eye in the center. And at the top there are some clouds, and at the bottom there's darkness, I can assume being Earth. And on the sides there are flowers rising up. There are flowers at the bottom. Did you notice? Can you see those? The two yellow star-shaped flowers, and then a little bit of a moon-like shape at the bottom. And then at the top there are clouds and a couple of more flowers. And then on either side of the sun, there are two flowers, one on each side, right? So I looked at this card and I thought, okay, so that's the spread you want. What does that mean? What can I do with this? Now, that sun in the center gave me a really clear indication that there should be one central message, one central set of cards, but it shouldn't be a line of cards either up or down. But how do I do a round line, a set of cards? I'm not going to change to a round deck. What is it trying to tell me? And then I thought, in the past, in the distant past, in Greece, around the time of Pythagoras, for example, they thought that anyone who could calculate the area of a square that matched the area of a circle without using any instruments, just in their head, that person was a genius. Clearly, I'm not a genius, but that idea of squaring the circle is in our cultural history. And when I saw that and I was thinking about that sun and it being a circle and I have squares, circles, squaring the circle came to my mind. So what did I do? You just saw. I chose 4 cards in the shape of a square, not a line up or down, but a square for the central message. Now, I also want to use 2 other decks with this spread. So then what am I going to do? Well, I noticed that there was light at the top and dark at the bottom. I could have done light and shadow, but instead I was thinking, I saw those clouds and I thought, it's more than light, it's air and earth. Air and earth, the mental and physical spheres. So I did, how many cards am I going to use? Well, at the bottom I saw that there were, not 2 stars, there were 3 flowers at the bottom, right? There are 3 flowers at the bottom in the shape of a star and a moon kind of hugging one of those. And I thought, okay, so 3 cards at the bottom. 2 cards at the top, that seems unbalanced. So, because first I was thinking, well, these 2 flowers, that could be 2 cards, but then I thought, no. I don't want 3 at the bottom and 2 at the top. I want 3 at the top. So those 3 could be the clouds at the top. So the idea of the mental sphere, the clouds, the mind, the air, the bottom, the earth, the gold. The color of the stars here is gold, right? And then the 2 little flowers on either side of the sun, that could be the oracle cards, the advice. Now, we don't really have a sun side and a moon side like I did with the Ace of Swords spread. So these 2 flowers will be in conversation with each other rather than with their side of the spread. So that's the way I decided to lay out the spread. And that's the meaning you saw. Now, the central is group of 4, squaring the circle, is the sun. It's the main message, and it's the eye of the divine peering in and through the material. It's spirit appreciating its physical manifestation as matter. At the top, we've got the mental sphere, not conscious, but the mental sphere. At the bottom, we've got the earthly, physical sphere. And then at the 2 sides, we've got oracle cards giving us advice. So that is the spread. That is my Ace of Discs spread, inspired by the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler. So, we just saw the breakdown. Let me show you the central message of this spread, and let's read it together. Let's take a look. I forgot to mention that if you are interested in one or any of these decks, there will be a short clip at the end of this long video that tells you the names of the decks and the names of the creators. And below this video, in the description box, as always, there are links for you to go and check out the decks and perhaps purchase one or all of them if you're interested. They're all still in print at the time of this videotaping. Just remember, I do not get any money, any financial remuneration if you use those links. I've just copied them from the internet for you to use for your convenience. So take a look. They're beautiful decks, I believe, and I hope you believe so too. So we're looking at the central set of cards. And you noticed more clearly this time, I'm sure, that the Ace of Discs showed up in the spread. I swear, I shuffled the deck and the deck popped out the Ace of Discs once again for the central message of this spread. And remember also that every week when I do these spreads, the question is, how can we live an intentional life? How can we live life more intentionally this week? How can we live life more intentionally in the coming week? And so, the deck decided it wanted to really, really emphasize that ace of discs. So we got the ace of discs, and then going clockwise, we had the magus, otherwise known as the magician, reversed. And then going down, we had the five of discs, also reversed. And then moving over to the bottom right, we had the 10 of cups, also reversed. A lot of reversed cards. Well, the ace of discs was upright. So that's where we're going to start, because that makes sense, right? This is the ace of discs spread. The only card that was upright was the ace of discs, and it's clearly staring at us. It's trying to attract our attention, right? The ace of discs. Now, the aces in this deck are the beginnings of things. That's the beginning of the journey through the suit, as with most decks. And for the ace of discs, that means that it is Saturn in Capricorn. Yeah, Capricorn ruled by Saturn. Saturn in Capricorn. And it's a beautiful card. And I really get that idea of the divine peering into and through the material. And that's an intriguing difference, isn't it? Peering into, like somebody peering from the outside in. But the divine isn't only outside, the divine is in. So peering through the material. How can that be? The way I imagine it, a little bit of a tangent here, but the way I imagine it is, all of this material stuffness has manifested within the monad, within the divine, within the non-physical. So the non-physical, the divine consciousness, God, Allah, Brahman, Gaia, whatever you want to call that creative intelligence that is what has always been before time, will always be after time, and is the creative force of this physicalness. I won't even call it only a universe, because what we think of the universe might not be all there is to physical, but is the creating force of this physicalness. But that doesn't mean a separation. It's not like the divine said, oh, I'm going to create something physical over there. The only locus that can be created is within, because there's nothing else. And yes, some people describe it as the divine clearing a space for this thing. And to me, that doesn't make sense. There's no need to clear space. It's just here within, because there is no separation. And so the divine peers within itself to observe, to appreciate, to give attention to this physicalness that it is creating. But it is also the physicalness itself as well. So every atom, every electron, every subatomic particle is the divine. And the divine peers through the rest of the material realm from within each of those elements of the non-physical. And the divine eye isn't like the eye that we have in our heads, it's the consciousness, correct? So does that make sense to you? There is no separation. And so when I say the divine peers into and through the material, that is what I'm trying to imply. Long story short, that's what this is to me. And so what is the Ace of Discs? Saturn in Capricorn. Saturn in Capricorn is very comfortable. That's the home of Saturn, one of the homes of Saturn. So, Ace of Discs is the seed. Now, the Ace of Discs is the seed planted in the ground. It wants to be nurtured. It wants to be watered. It wants to be given attention for it to sprout. But at first we plant the seed, right? If you've ever planted anything or grown anything, you've had that experience of planting a seed, waiting for it to germinate, seeing the first sprout. This is the seed. It's also the first step on the journey towards the direction, in the direction of our powerful flow of intention. Now, again, we're answering the question, how can we live life more intentionally this week? And that's by following intention. And how do we follow intention? Well, first, we take one step in the direction of the flow of our intention, in the direction of the things that we've planted out there in energetic form for us to move in the direction of their manifestation. So that there is that encounter of the thing we've planted, the experience, the job, the home, the relationship, the family, the vacation, whatever, the creative experience, the act of creation, all of those things that we plant on the banks of our powerful river of intention. We move in that direction as they are attracted to us by the law of attraction into that encounter of manifestation. Does that make sense? So this ACE is a step in that direction. And it's a thing that we repeat, right? One step does not make a journey, but one step is the beginning of a journey. A journey is a culmination or the accumulation of one step after the other. And this is a step, the first step, perhaps. It's an invitation to continue moving forward. It's an invitation to move somewhere richer, somewhere rich, somewhere special, somewhere fertile. To move in the direction of our abundance and our fertility, our creativity, our uniqueness. Because you are unique. Do you know that? You are unique, and that's a blessing. That's a beautiful thing. I am unique. Everyone we know is unique, and we're here to experience this co-creative act of the physical universe, and we are here to individuate, to self-actualize, to become the unique beings that each of us are in this unity of the oneness of the divine. So we move in the direction of our uniqueness, our specialness, our fertility, our creativity, our richness, our abundance. And this eye is also an eye of consciousness, right? It's not a passive consciousness. It's an active, creative consciousness. And it's a consciousness that reminds us that we also want to study. The ace of discs, for me, is the student of the material. Not the theoretician, but the student of the material studies how things are working, how things work, how things fit together, how things manifest or de-manifest, how things decompose and compose. That's the ace of discs for me. So this card is here to remind us that we are also here to study the established order, established how it is right now. How it is not the established order like the establishment, like government, although that's part of it, but how things have been established here in the present moment. What is the foundation that we are standing on in the present moment? To study that, every feature, every benefit of it. Because if we put attention to the disbenefit, the detriments, the negative things, the things that we don't want, we're going to give those more energy and they will grow. And we don't really particularly want that, right? We want to put more of our attention on the things that are of benefit, the things that help us, the things that we want to flourish. Because that's the way we feed the seed. That's the way we nurture the plant. So we give that attention, we study it before we start rearranging things and making something new. Going in blind and just willy-nilly slapping things together can sometimes be of benefit, but it's even more beneficial to be aware of what it is we are changing and how we are changing, and whether the changes we are making are going to be in the direction of what we want to create, the world, the environment we want to create, or in another direction. So this card is also reminding us to pay attention to what we're doing and what is here. And it's also a movement toward action. It's not a movement toward passivity. It's a movement toward action, toward completion and detachment. And what am I trying to say? If we look at the zodiac, there are two ways, we could split it in half. Now, half of it goes down towards Cancer, and I know this is part of this could sound like a judgment of things going down and things going up. It's just a way to describe direction. Okay, so for example, the tree of life, we say that it goes down into Malkut and then it rises to Keter. But really, when we go, until we get to Malkut, there is no up and down. It could be going left into Malkut and right into Keter. There is no up and down until we get to Malkut. But for convenience, we're going to say it goes down into Malkut and up to Keter. Just as we could say, for convenience, the cycle moves down into Cancer and then from Leo back up. And one way is the dry way. And the direction from Leo into Capricorn is the dry way. It's the way out of, it's kind of the way back from Malkut into Keter. It's the way from deep manifestation into the physical, back up, releasing into spirit, into the non-physical. It's the path of detachment. So this card is also reminding us that here in the physical, as we physically manifested, we are moving. Yes, we're moving towards completion. We're moving towards detachment, towards releasing. We complete and release, and then we start a cycle again. Does that make sense? Because this is a round ace, right? It's reminding us of cycles as well. And this ace is reminding us that we're on the path of completion and detachment. We have the final experience of completion and fulfillment, and we release and we move. And again, this is the divine eye peering into and through matter. So this is a very important card. It's a very important card to remind us of what the path of intention is, yeah? We move in the direction of the manifestation of abundance. Abundance now, but more abundance, more joy, more wellness, more creativity. And it's a card of giving attention to what is, and then how we can manipulate, not manipulative, but move things around and combine things and separate things to create an even more evolved, more beneficial reality as we move forward with intention. And again, that this path forward, which is never has an end, is cyclical. We move into completion and then we start again. And we are doing this as the eternal beings that we are, co-creating these bodies in this physical universe. Because we are also looking into and through the material, just as the divine is. That's living the intentional life. That is living a life of intention to me. And so this is beautiful. It's important. And because I think it makes sense, we're going to move from this card right into the Magus. Is that what I've gotten you? Yes, this is the Magus. Let me show you the Magus upright. Now the Magus upright, if you are used to Rider-Waite-Smith based decks, or even Terre de Marseille, we're used to seeing a figure standing in front of a table with tools in front of them. In Rider-Waite-Smith based decks and the Coleman Waite deck, we're used to seeing the four elements: the wand representing fire, the disc representing earth, the cup representing water, and the sword representing air, all laid out for the magician to make use of. They've got all of their tools. In this deck, which is based on a continental tarot system which predates the Golden Dawn, which created the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and the Thoth decks by the Harris-Crowley deck. This deck comes from a system that predates that. In that system, this card is the air. The association here is air. So there's a lot of mind-making matter, right? Mind creating. And in this card, we see the two Cardusiuses, yeah, being held by the figure in the center. On one side, there's the sun. On the other side, there's the moon. Yep. So this would be the Cancer side. This would be the Leo side, rising up and going down, perhaps. And we also have this red bottom with fiery wings below, and actual white wings below that. So that idea of air taking flight, being crowned. There's a triangle above. This Magus is crowned, has two wands of power, surrounded by the zodiac as well. I'm sorry, I keep looking at it instead of just showing you. Now, in reverse, what do we have? The wings are above. So we're not flying so well. Now, the wings, which could uplift us, are now above us, and we're kind of dangling from them in a way. So in reverse, this card is reminding us that our success depends on our keeping our balance. Keeping our balance and harmonizing apparent opposites. Sun and moon, for example. Hot and cold. Activity, passivity. Yeah? Moving out, giving and receiving. Balancing what appear to be opposites. Now, in fact, there are no real opposites. However, our minds like to discriminate things into a dichotomy, hot, cold, give, receive. So this card is reminding us in its reverse form that our goal, our desire to live intentional lives is to maintain our balance and to harmonize what appear to be opposites. It's the inclusive approach rather than this or that. It's the this and that. And. It's not a choice of, well, I either get hot or cold. It's hot and cold together. How can that create? What alchemy can we do by combining those two? Intuition and critical thinking together. What can we create by combining those two? Feeling things and feeling things emotionally and sensing things. I'm going Jungian on you. Feeling things emotionally, judging this is good, this is not good, this is wanted, this is unwanted, by feeling things, and also sensing things out into the world. What about combining those two? How could that inform us? So that's that idea of this and that. For example, also finding unity of mind, heart, and gut. 3 possible locuses of our intelligence. Yeah, the mind, the brainy part of intelligence, the heart, the emotional part of our intelligence, the gut, the somatic, the somatic intelligence, the intelligence of body, the intelligence that it courses through the entirety of our bodies and runs up the vagus nerve and connects both brain and heart and gut together. Those gut impulses that we get. Combining all three, finding the unity of all aspects of mind. Remember? The air card. And it also wants us to remind us to arrange our lives in such a way that we have space. That we have space to become self-aware. Or to give more attention to our world, our mental, physical, emotional world. To give more attention, to become more self-aware. Because that's part of the path of an intentional life, is becoming more self-aware as we individuate, as we self-actualize. Because as we do that, what is the benefit? We can make adjustments to the way in which we interact with the world. We can make adjustments to our emotional set point. We can make adjustments to the way that we are, to how open we are, to taking advantage of the powerful flow of intention. The more open we are, the more space that we allow ourselves, the more freely, the more quickly we move with intention in the direction we want to be moving in. And as we do that, the better we are able to interact with and navigate this physical environment and our relationships with other people. Those people who are not in alignment with us, with the most evolved aspects of ourselves, will bounce right off of us. And those that are able to make it into our sphere are influenced by us. And we are better able to interact with them. We are better able to move with them, to co-create with them. And a lot of people think of this card as the card of creativity, of creation, the first step of manifestation, a kind of ace of discs for the major arcana. Although this is an air card. But yeah, that creativity, the beginning of making stuff, of doing the work, the magical work of being in the physical world. So this card reminds us that having space to be more aware of our personal environment and how we are being in this world, and making adjustments to that so that we are more open, more able to take advantage of intention. The better we are going to be, the more effective we are going to be, the happier we are going to be, the more loving we are going to be in this physical universe. Because our eternal selves are all that. Our eternal selves are the ultimate of loving beings, of joyful beings, of well-beings, of aware beings. But here in these bodies, we get so wrapped up in things that we shut ourselves off a little bit from access to all of that power. And so this self-awareness helps us to make those adjustments, to open this window, open that door, create more space. So we're moving in through creation, and our relationship with our path of intention, right? And so we moved down into this card, which is the 5 of discs, another discs card, the 5 of discs in reverse. And let me show you upright. And let me take a peek at this upright. What we have here is a cross with 4 different discs at the ends. And then, of course, we've got the larger disc up above, giving us that 5th disc. Now, in the Smith-Waite deck, the 5 of discs, the 5 of pentacles, is a really, really depressing, sad card. It's people being shut away from resources. They're injured, they're cold, they're poorly dressed, they're in the dark. It's a very destitute and desperate situation. That's not what we get in this deck. In this deck, the 5 of discs upright it's a very beneficial card. It's a card of potential possibilities. But we got this card, and it's the card of, let me read it here from the bottom. It's the card of Saturn. Again, we've got Saturn in Taurus. And also, it's also the card of Venus. Venus in, just a moment, let me double check. Venus in Pisces. My note fell down. Venus in Pisces, which is actually a kind of good match. In reverse, this goes into Venus in Virgo. Venus in Virgo. Full disclosure. Up until a couple of years ago, when I was still pretty unaware of what astrology really was. I mean, I saw horoscopes. I knew that I was a Leo. I knew my mother was a Virgo. I knew my grandmother was a Scorpio. I mean, I knew that kind of stuff, but I didn't really know much about it, except for those little keywords that I knew from reading the horoscopes in the newspaper. And Virgo, when I thought Virgo, I immediately thought Venus for some reason. Venus, Virgo, they sound so much alike. I thought Virgo was this beautiful lady like a Venus. Boy, was I mistaken. Yeah? So, when I see Venus and Virgo, I immediately remember my old idea and I think, oh, that should be pretty good, but it's not so good. It's not so beneficial, Venus and Virgo. Because Venus is lush, it's beauty, it's creativity, and Virgo is rules and order and making lists, etc. So they don't really go together very nicely. And that's what this is in the reversed form, in this reversed position. It's Venus and Virgo. So, what do we get here? Venus and Virgo. We get this feeling of the distinction between possibilities and probabilities, for one thing. Now, upright, it's all possibility. There's so many things we can achieve. Reversed, it's the difference between possibility, which is interesting and wonderful, and probability. So it's that discernment of, yeah, okay, there are these dreams, but what is really going to happen? Which is where we get that Saturn idea is pulled through there. Yeah, that seeing into the future possibilities, future probabilities. Seeing what's going to actually happen instead of these fantasies that we're having right now. What's actually going to happen? And it's a little bit of a cold discernment, right? It's a little bit of a cold blade cutting that possible and probable into pieces, into halves, into distinctions. It's becoming more aware of the inadequacies and the imperfections of what is manifesting. Now, Virgo is a little bit of a perfectionist, right? And the only thing that is absolutely perfect is the divine, the non-physical. The moment we get into physical, we split into dichotomies, trichotomies. We split into things, and that perfection of unity is lost. Now, we get a different kind of beauty, we get a different kind of amazing wonder, but it's not that perfection, right? There are rough edges. And we get more aware of those imperfections here. And inadequacies. It's not enough, which can be beneficial. We notice the inadequacy, we notice the imperfection, so we create the solution. We put that solution on the current of our intention and we open and move towards it. So this discernment of, now this isn't exactly right, this isn't really what I wanted. Have you had those experiences where you've seen a manifestation appear and it was wonderful, and then you started noticing the rough edges and it's not as good as you thought it would be, as wonderful as you thought it would be, as perfect as you thought it would be, and there's that sense of dissatisfaction that starts to appear? That's what this card is here to remind us of, that those times of becoming more aware of the imperfections, but that's okay. That's a good thing. That's what helps drive evolution. That's how we have evolved to the beings that we are now, by becoming aware that, okay, I'm not walking as well as the other people around. Not that we have to compare to other people, but I see those big people walking and I'm kind of stumbling here, so that's imperfect. That's not what I want. And we evolve into the being who is able to walk more smoothly. But first, that being aware of the imperfections helps us, right? And yet, there is that moment of, or that time of discomfort with what is. And that's this card. It's also here to remind us that we might have some false impressions. We might have some false ideas that could lead us to that could lead us to great disappointment or some disappointment if we keep following them. Now, that idea of some people or some situations could be a glamour. Do you know that idea of glamour? It's that beautifully dressed thing. When you get close to it, it ain't so pretty, it ain't so wonderful. There was a little bit of a dressing up of something to make it look wonderful. And then we notice that all that glitters is not gold, to coin a phrase. So this card is also reminding us that we want to be careful of getting deluded by the bright and shiny, because that could be a glamour. It could be real, but it could be a glamour, and we want to discern that difference. And again, Saturn. The Saturn in this card wants us to discern what is coming towards us, what we are moving in the direction of. And Virgo judges whether it's good or bad. It's up to its high standards or not. Is it as good as it should be or not? And so if it's not, perhaps we course correct. So this is also another cautionary tale in this card, is not to allow flattery to distract us. Not to allow other people's glamours to take away our free will, because our free will to follow the course of our intention is the best gift that we have as eternal beings in these physical bodies. Now that free will, we don't want to let other people distract us and rob us of our free will to choose, because we're, pretty, right? Now, we can look at something pretty, say pretty, and then decide, I'm going to follow that with my free will. I choose to follow that, rather than getting distracted by pretty, and just getting led off into another direction that we probably don't want to be going in. There's a clear distinction in that. And that reminds us again of that Ace of Discs saying, be aware. Be aware of the foundation, where we are, and the direction we are moving, and what we really do want to put together, and what we do want to follow. And then we move into the 10 of Cups, again, reversed. 10 of Cups, beautiful card, upright, right? We've got the sun, we've got a house on a lake, we've got all of this beautiful nature surrounding it. It's a lovely card. It's a lovely card. And upright, this card is in Cancer. It's, it's all three, right? It's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, upright and reversed. It's the 10s are the last. They are all of the signs of their suit. So all of the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, are combined in this card. Beautiful. In reverse, same thing. In reverse, though, rather than this abundance of joy and happiness, what do we have? We have craving knowledge. Craving knowledge that there's something beyond this dissatisfaction we are feeling with this present condition. Rather than joy in the present condition, we're feeling dissatisfaction and the need to know that there is something more out there. There is something beyond the dissatisfaction and the turbulence that we're experiencing in the physical world. So remember, we were just here, right? Noticing things were imperfect in the 5 of Discs reversed. So this is a perfect next step. It's that desire to know that there's something beyond this. We don't want to get mired in our dissatisfaction and in things aren't perfect and that it's not as good as it should be. We want to know. We feel the need to know that there's something more. And there is something more. But we want to know that. It's also this idea of faith, but knowledge that faith is not a passive thing. It's not, I think a lot of us think of faith, or when we see a person with faith, we think of somebody who is passive and putting all of the responsibility on some often old white guy in the sky. That's not what faith is. Faith is not passive. Faith is not giving over responsibility. Faith is an active thing. It's an active choosing. The choosing to know that things will be different. Things will be better. I will evolve. I will leave this body and I will be my eternal self, which is pure joy, pure love, pure well-being, pure awareness. It's a step beyond belief into faith. It's an active thing. It's an active choice. And it's not a one and done choice either. It's a choice we continue to make. We want to reinforce that choice. That's what faith is. So it's a deliberate, active heart choice, heart-based choice that is made again and again and again. It's a heart-based choice because, of course, this is a heart-based card. It's an emotion card. It's the cups. So it's a heart-based choice that we do again and again, that we make again and again. And where the 10 of Cups upright is the interrelationship between us and other physically manifesting beings and the divine, this is more of an inward turning indication. Now, the upright version is that connection with all that there is. In reverse, it's a turning within to observe. To observe until our hearts, our heads, our guts are settled. Now remember, we wanted to have that union of heart, head, and heart, mind, and gut. God, where am I? Our minds, hearts, and guts. We want to have that union in the. Where were you? Where did I get that? In the yes, in the Bagus, in this card, right. And that idea is echoed again here. Now we turn within. We turn within to observe until mind, heart, and gut are settled. Now that turbulence has settled. It's kind of like a meditative act, right? In meditation, what do? We sit, usually, there's walking meditation, but more often we sit and we observe the entirety of mind, the head, the heart, the gut, mind. And when things come, when it's turbulent, we observe it until the turbulence settles. When ideas, thoughts, feelings come floating on the river of mind, we watch them until they float off into the distance. That's meditation. And that's what this card is reminding us that we want to do. We want to turn inward and observe until we are more settled. And it's when we are more settled that we're going to be more effective in moving through the world. We want to allow any sadness or dissatisfaction that we are feeling to be until it dissipates, knowing, having faith that it will dissipate, having faith that we are heading in the direction of a breakthrough, that we are heading in the direction of a breakthrough, in the direction of humility, in the direction of detachment, in the direction of surrender. And I get the idea of the Tower card a little bit in here. The Tower card, when we think of the Tower card, we think of the Tower of Babel, which is hubris. That hubris is broken down. That attachment to the physicality and the devil, which is still there in the tower, that attachment crumbles into detachment. That reinforced, walled off, self-protective tower crumbles and we surrender. So I got a lot of echoes of the tower in this card in reverse. And that's a good thing. That detachment is a good thing. That surrender to what is a good thing. Because that is living an intentional life. Allowing what is and having faith that we are moving in the direction of the life we have intended for ourselves. That's living an intentional life. And did you notice how much this card in reverse echoes all of the other three cards? Now, we want to allow for the sadness of where are you? Of the Five of Discs. We want to break through with humility and detachment. The detachment. We're moving towards detachment in the Ace of Discs. And we want to break through, balance, but break through, as maybe the Magus would break through. Finding unity, joining the opposites, and breaking through. This is a deep, powerful, central spread, and we've still got more. But does this make sense to you? Do you see how this all ties together into one unity around the Ace of Discs upright? It's just amazing, beautiful, wonderful, interlocked and interconnected, echoing off of each other. These 4 cards echo off of each other so beautifully. So again, we've got the conscious sphere and I'm sorry, not the conscious. I'm used to my other spread. We have the mental sphere and the material sphere to dive into. Let's start with the brain. Let's start with the mental sphere. Let's take a look. Beautiful deck, isn't it? Beautiful cards. Now, this set of cards and the set of cards you're going to see in just a little bit, the 2 other sets of tarot cards, they're sister decks. At least to me, they are sister decks, created by the same creator. And again, there will be a short clip at the end of this video that will give you that information. This deck is all dragons. And what did we have? We had from left to right, the Devil. Thank you for that, right? The 8 of Cups and the 3 of Pentacles. Now this deck, while it has a lot of similarities with perhaps a Coleman Smith deck, it's reimagined beautifully for the world that these characters inhabit. It's not just like a dragon in the center for the Devil card, for example. There might have been a dragon in the center and then 2 little dragons on the sides chained to that big dragon in the back. And that big dragon in the back would have had a torch in one paw and maybe, what would it be in the other paw? A torch in one paw and the other one would have been pointing up. Suddenly I'm forgetting my Devil card. Anyways, there would have been in this kind of a posture, right? That's not what this deck does. It doesn't put the dragons into the postures and gestures of the Smith-Waite deck. It recreates the ideas for its own world, which is a beautiful thing. So what did we have? We started with the Devil. Was not so happy to see this, to tell you the truth, when it appeared. But now I am happy to see it. The Devil. The Devil, in this card, what do we see? There were 2 dragons, not 3. There were 2 dragons, and they are both, plants have grown around them. Vines have entangled them. Particularly the dragon below seems even more entangled than the one above, but they're both entangled. And there are moths flying around them. And those moths don't particularly seem to feel any danger because these 2 dragons, they're tied up pretty good. It's interesting that these 2 dragons are definitely in relation with each other, right? They're looking at each other, perhaps looking to each other to figure a way out of this mess. So what is the Devil? The Devil is attachment, addiction, restriction, being bound. And that's possible. That's a possible meaning for this. But in this spread, I think it moves in another direction. The Devil can also be seduction and temptation. We talked about that glamour. The glamour from the 5 of Discs card. From the central spread. From the central set of cards, I should say. So the Devil, this could be that glamour. That seduction to losing one's free will and following something else. It could also be our shadow self, our bondage, our internal bondage, which again is a reminder of that 5 of Discs reversed. It's also a reminder of the 10 of Cups, that we want to peer within until this is settled, right? So it's a reminder that we all have our own bondages. We all have our own points where we are seduced and tempted by things for which we relinquish our self-will, our free will, our selfhood. And until we are fully actualized and fully individuated, that we all have those things in us. And this is just a reminder. This is the start of the spread, right? To remember that yes, you, me, we have a shadow, that in that shadow there are bondages. There are things that we consciously or unconsciously are tempted by and seduced by, and we allow ourselves to relinquish our self-will in favor of. So it moves directly into the Eight of Cups. And here we've got, this is a little bit more similar to the Smith-Waite deck. We've got a dragon figure, and there are these acorn-like cups at the bottom, and this figure is going away from those cups, leaving them behind and moving towards a light. And I like that in this card, this light here, I'm sorry, it's here for you. That light is so bright and so clear, and this dragon is so clearly looking in that direction. I like that. It's not just moving away, it's moving towards something. Go into the light, which we don't get so clearly in the Smith-Waite deck. The Eight of Cups. We start with disappointment, right? Now, this Devil is a disappointing card for a lot of us. We realize we're bound. We realize we've given up our free will, and we get disappointed in ourselves, in what we have given our power to. We get disappointed, sure. It's the card of abandonment and withdrawal. We may feel abandoned. We may have felt abandoned to the devil experience. We may feel abandoned by someone who we had been bound to. We may experience their withdrawal. And a lot of times if we really get engulfed in the devil pretty seriously, in our addictions, in our temptations, in our bondage, people very often will wander off, right? They don't want to deal with it. They don't have the mental or emotional space for that. So they could be walking away. However, we can also leave other people, right? We can abandon other people. We can withdraw from other people as a result of this as well. It could be our moving away, which can be a negative thing, but it can also be a positive thing. If we leave behind that thing which is binding us, if we leave behind that glamour which is distracting us, that is a positive thing. And this is also the card of detachment. Remember, we want to move towards detachment, fulfillment and detachment. This is also a spiritual journey towards the light, which is why I like having this light so clear in this card. We get that idea of the spiritual journey more clearly in this card than we do in many others. So we recognize that we are sometimes in the devil card, and then we move as the Ace of Cups, I think, here away from that into the light as a spiritual journey of detachment, of leaving behind, as a process of moving with the powerful force of intention, of self-actualization, of individuation. And then we move right into the Three of Pentacles. Happy, happy card, right? The Three of Pentacles. And in this card, instead of three people wearing dresses of different colors, Three of Pentacles. I suddenly went to the Three of Cups. Instead of three people inside of what looks like a medieval church, perhaps, or a medieval structure, three different people, one perhaps a worker, one perhaps a cleric, one perhaps someone of the royal or at least privileged classes, the landed gentry, one of three people from three different classes coming together to work on a project. Now that's what we get in the Smith-Waite. Here we got three eggs. We got two parent dragons, 3 eggs in the nest, and we've got 3 pentacles down below the nest as the support, I guess, the physical support for the nest, which is incubating 3 eggs, which will eventually hatch. So these two are working together to hatch the eggs for creation. It's teamwork, it's collaboration, it's fraternity. Fraternity not as in university where you get together and live in a house and get drunk every night, not that kind of fraternity, but the fraternal or sororal friend, platonic love, bond of fraternity and sorority. It's also learning and implementing what we've learned. Now in the 2s, we've learned how to balance stuff. Now we're learning how to work with it and putting that learning we've done into action. So what does that mean? We move from the devil, we move on, we move away from it, and we move into relationship of co-creation. And that co-creation can be with other people here in this physical realm, but that co-creation can also be with our eternal self and the greater self of the divine. Now that we always have spirit at our back, at our side, below us, above us, in us. We're always in relationship with the non-physical, and that is a 3 of Pentacles relationship as well. We are all co-creating this physical universe, this physical manifestation, which is what we came here to do, and part of living our intentional lives, right? So this is where we put our mind. This is where we put our intellectual focus, is discerning where we are bound in the devil. What is tempting us? What are we giving our power away to? And then finding a way to move away from that, but not only away, moving towards detachment, moving on in our spiritual journey, and then being more able to co-create with other people and with the divine. As the Ace of Pentacles. That works, right? That makes absolute sense, does it not? So that was the conscious sphere. Now we want to move into the material sphere, the earth, Malkut. Let's take a look. Like I said, the deck that these cards came from is the sister deck to the deck from which the 3 cards in the mental sphere were drawn. Does that make sense? Yeah, 2 decks. They're sister decks. And you can see this art style. The same artist created both of these. Beautiful. So in the top, we have all dragons. In the bottom, we have 4 different groups of animals. We have rabbits for pentacles. We have foxes for wands. We have squirrels for cups, and we have ravens for swords. So we got 4 different animal kingdoms, 4 different kingdoms of animals in the bottom deck, which made it more of an earthy deck to me, right? So, which is wonderful because I chose, this spread just excites me because I chose the decks first. And then I asked Tarot of the Holy Light what kind of a spread would work for this, and this is what the Tarot of the Holy Light showed me. The air, dragons, air, the earth, 4 different earth creatures for the earth. It just made so much sense. I think it's an amazing spread. Anyways, so I hope you think it's an amazing spread too. Here we are in the earth. Now, did you also notice? In the bottom of the spread, we had 3 cards: the King of Pentacles, the 7 of Pentacles, and the 6 of Cups. Now, I don't know if you noticed this yet, but in this entire spread, we had one major arcana, the Magus. Except for the Magus, everything in this spread was either disc pentacle or cups. That's all. We had no swords, we had no wands. We had none of the active cards, none of the active suits, all receptive. The cups are receptive suits, the earth, the pentacles, the discs are receptive suits. This is an amazing spread. Now, those things are not excluded, I think, in this time, because it's not just one. Both of the active are excluded, not because they're lacking, but because this spread really, really wanted to focus on the receptive. Now, receptivity also moves into activity, right? The Ace of Discs, it's a receptive suit. However, we move into activity. We move towards rearranging things. We move towards creation in the disc suit. But still, the suit is a receptive suit. And so, in the bottom again, we started with the King of Pentacles. Beautiful card to start with. So, in the mental sphere, we pay attention to those problems and how we can solve them, how we can move on to creation, co-creation. In the actual daily working of things, we recognize that we are Kings of Pentacles. Whether we are in male bodies, in female bodies, in non-binary bodies, in cis bodies, in trans bodies, we are all Kings of Pentacles. We're all Queens of Pentacles, we're all Knights of Pentacles, and we're all Pages of Pentacles. We're all sons and daughters. I am a son and I'm a daughter, as are you. Because we have all of that within us. And the King of Pentacles. Who is this one? Now this card, we've got a very regal looking rabbit there with a big old coin at their feet. We've got leaves around them. They're perched on top of a very sturdy looking sawed off trunk, a platform for them, a dais. Now, we don't have a lot of symbols here, but we've got enough, I think. Now, this rabbit feels their wealth. This rabbit feels they are leader. They are leaders. This is an established rabbit. Powerful. You can see all of that in the attitude and the pose, in the surveying of the kingdom. And that's what the King of Pentacles is a lot of the time. The King of Pentacles is also the card of security, feeling secure. Now I'm on my dais, I have my power, and so I'm secure. I recognize my abundance of all things material, health, not only money, resources of various kinds, time. I'm good. I'm more than good. I am a leader. And I'm powerful. But I'm also disciplined. Now, the King of Pentacles is also disciplined and enterprising. The King of Pentacles is able to make things happen in the world. The King of Pentacles is able to lead people to do the things that the King of Pentacles wants, but is also able to work with each one of them in the way that the King of Pentacles needs to work with each one of them. So the King of Pentacles is able to take that Ace of Discs from that central spread and do something with it. Take the steps. Help other people take the steps with them. And that's what we can do here in the physical plane. If we found our balance, we're able to move past what we see as imperfections. We are able to be aware of our inner environment and allow it to settle, break through The king can also be humble, can also be humble, detached. Surrender to what is as they lead. Now, the King of Pentacles isn't leading by saying, well, this is bad and fix this and this is wrong. No, the King of Pentacles is leading by surrendering to what is and moving forward. But there's a sense of detachment, which is echoed in this next card, the Seven of Pentacles. Now, in Pamela Coleman Smith's art, what do we see? We see a person with a hoe looking at a bush with 7 pentacles on it, waiting for it to them to be ready to harvest, we assume. So the 7 of Pentacles is the long-term view. The King of Pentacles also has a long-term view of what is going to be created, what is going to be manifested. It's a card of this is the card of perseverance, not being impatient with when is it going to be ripe, when can I pick it, when can I harvest, when am I going to get it, when is it going to be done, are we there yet? That's not what this card is here to remind us of. This card is a card of patience. You see this rabbit here patiently waiting, taking a nap because they've got the time, and they're waiting for the pentacles, the discs here, to be ready to harvest. This is the card of also sustainable results. Now, it's not strip mining, for example. Strip mining where you just get what you want, you dig and you dig, you get what you want, damn the consequences. That's not sustainable. This is sustainable results. Now, you plant, you harvest, you nurture the soil, you plant, you harvest, you nurture the soil, you get results, and they're sustainable. And it doesn't only have to do with planting. It's relationships. It's the work we do in our offices. It's the work we do in our factories. It's the work we do in our restaurants. Or wherever it is that we do, in our studios, wherever it is that we do our creation, we don't destroy in order to, we don't haphazardly destroy in order to create. There might be a little bit of destruction in our creation, but we also renew our resources as we use them. And it's investment in our future. Now, that planting of the seed in the Ace of Discs. And it's patience for the harvest. It's waiting until the time is right. It's a beautiful card. It's a beautiful card in the spread as well. We move from the king to remembering patience and long-term view. Not being impatient with it's not perfect yet, like in the 5 of Discs reversed in the central spread. We recall our patience, that we have patience. We have faith, that active faith from the 10 of Cups. And then we move into the 6 of Cups, which in Pamela Coleman Smith's art, we see these 2 small figures we assume are children, one giving the other a cup with flowers in it, and it's the card of childhood or nostalgia, which is wonderful and yet a little bit sappy and insipid at times, and that's not what this card is, I don't think. What, especially in this card, what do we see? We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We see 5. Is there, I would imagine there should be a 6th squirrel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only see 5 squirrels, but there's probably a 6th here somewhere that I don't see right off the bat. Anyways, I see 5 squirrels, but they've all got this hole with these chestnut caps, which is the symbol for the cups in this deck. They've stored their cups away, their acorns away in the hollow of this tree. Which means those cups are their resource for their future as well, right? So it's not just remembering the good old days. It's those memories, those emotionally charged memories being also a resource for our future, especially in this card. So it's more than just nostalgia. It's maybe our childhood or past experiences that we remember when things did work out. Rather than just plunging into the dissatisfaction of the present, we can use that energy from the past to recall that, things worked out before. There were times when I've gotten past this. There are times when I've created that. There are times when things have gotten better. So our memories, also our innocence, God, English, innocence, the innocence of childhood, that wonder of childhood, the joy of childhood, if you had a joyful, innocent childhood. Not all of us did. Some of us have trauma from that time, and I hear you. I've got my own traumas. I also have around and interspersed with those traumas, I do have some memories of joyful times. And it's those things that are our resources. That friend I made, now that friend is gone. That friend I made when I was 5 years old and we would go fishing in a creek. Not even a creek really, it was water leaking from a drainage pipe. And we'd get a stick, we'd get sticks, one for me, one for him. We'd tie string on it. We might tie something to the end of the string like a lure, and we'd go fishing in the water running out of the sewer pipe. Talk about innocent, joyful play. There's no logical result that could have been there, but the experience of doing that was the play, right? Other experiences of dancing naked in the rain when I was, again, 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. Those experiences, they are emotion-filled, they are emotionally charged, they are resources for us. So, as we are waiting, here, we can take advantage of those memories, that joy of when things worked out, and not expect it to be exactly the same, but we can use that emotional energy as a resource for our faith, for our clarity, for our opening. Yeah, it takes energy to open to the powerful flow of intention. Especially if we've closed ourselves off, it takes energy to open up like that. And that energy can come from our memories, from our good memories, our joyful memories, our innocent memories, our memories of love and discovery and wonder. And that memory could have been from a movie we watched as well, or a TV show that we watched and we loved and we laughed and we rolled around on the ground before our mothers came in and started smacking us around for making too much noise. There's still that memory of rolling around on the ground in pure delight. And we can deliberately put attention on that part and let that energy feed us. Does that make sense? We've got 2 cards of advice, which are interesting cards of advice. Both of these decks are dragon decks. Let me show them to you right now. Because it's taken us a while to get here. Yeah, we followed a path that's had some twists and turns. Let's do a real quick recap of this spread to this point, so we get it a little bit planted in our heads. Yeah, we started with the Ace of Discs being the seed. We're starting on a journey, and we want to be aware of what is and where we are going and what we are creating. We want to remember that we are the divine here observing and paying attention to and creating. We want to move towards action. But this is the beginning. This is the seed. And as we recognize that, as we recognize our movement, we move into the magus reversed, which is wanting to find our balance. And finding the truth that this is an additive experience. We don't say this or that, it's this and that. It's that combination of what could be apparently, or our perception of opposites, putting them together, that can be the beginning of an alchemical creation. It's inclusivity. And that we want to arrange and make sure we have time to be self-aware, to pay attention, so that we make the adjustments to the direction we're moving in. Because of the Five of Discs. The Five of Discs, we recognize that right now, at this moment, things aren't as good as we want them to be. They're not perfect. They're not, we're a little disappointed perhaps. And that's okay. That's fodder for our continued creation. But we're disappointed and we want to be aware of what's coming at us, what direction we're moving in, and what is going to be in our experience if we keep moving in that direction. We want to be cautious not to give over our power to anyone else just because they're flattering us or they're putting on a beautiful show, like Pinocchio being drawn off course into an island of play. Now, we don't want to allow ourselves to do that. We want to see the truth, to be discerning. And then we move into the Ten of Cups to recognize that, one, we want to remember that faith is both beneficial and it's an active choice. We want to recognize that our inward journey is just as important as our outward journey, and that we always do have the divine on our side. We always have the eternal selves that we are with us, because that is who we are. And in that, we also realize that what we want to do is break through and reclaim our humility, reclaim our surrender to what is, because that is living the intentional life. And so in the conscious sphere, we recognize what we are attaching ourselves to. We allow ourselves to detach from that, move into the light, and open to the possibility of co-creating with other people or with the divine. Then in the in the material realm, we recognize that, yes, we are the King of Pentacles. We are the king of our material realm, if we allow ourselves to be. And part of being that is not only working with other people, but also being patient, having a long-term view, working sustainably, waiting for things to be ready before we harvest. And to help get us through that, we have the Six of Cups. We have our memories that can feed us and remind us of the times when we did harvest, when things were joyful, when things were bounteous. And so we're moving into the advice. And so 2 cards for advice, one from 2 different decks, one each from 2 different decks. One, Merlin, and the other, Hope. Beautiful pairing. Merlin. Who is Merlin? Merlin, you know, as the wizard in the Arthurian legends. This is the dragon Merlin. And if you look, this dragon Merlin has a cauldron, which is beautiful. Yeah, we got the wizard doing magical creation. But interestingly enough, this Merlin is, rather than being the magical creator, this is Merlin the teacher. This is Merlin guiding Arthur. So in this case, we are, rather than, sometimes we're Merlin, and we'll get to that in a moment, but oftentimes we're also Arthur. The Arthur that needs guidance. And sometimes that guidance that we need is to recognize that what we are perceiving in the world is actually our projections reflected back towards us. We see all of these a-holes in the world, and if that's primarily where our attention is, it's because that is a reflection, that is our projection reflected back on us. We're projecting ourselves onto them and it's being reflected. They are a mirror for us. I'm a mirror for you. You are a mirror for me. So we want to see that what we're experiencing in the world is a reflection of ourselves. That's one thing we learned from this card. So when we see the devil card, that experience in our lives, that's a reflection not of things, we're not the victims of that. That is what we are doing to ourselves to some extent. Now, there might actually be people tying us up in physical form. And that's not exactly what we're talking about here. That's a very different conversation. What we're talking about here is the devil moment of our own addictions and how we have gotten ourselves into those addictions, how we've gotten ourselves into that bondage. And reflecting back to us is that we are the ones who have gotten ourselves into that. This card is reminding us that discernment is asked for. And learning to trust ourselves as well. Because a lot of times the reason we got into that bondage and we got entrapped by a glamour is because we didn't trust ourselves. So learning to trust ourselves and learning to discern, like we wanted to discern in that 5 of Discs card, this is just an emphasis of that idea. And to remember that we are eternal beings of joy, love, well-being, awareness, having this physical experience. And as such, we are teachers. We are teachers of teachers. And we want to be ready to learn, to teach as we learn, and to learn as we teach. Do you recognize that? Do you recognize that you are a teacher? You are a teacher of teachers. We are all each other's teacher. And the way to be a really good teacher, in my understanding, which is actually a little bit different from the guidebook, in my understanding, is to realize that we learn as we teach and we teach as we learn. If we wait until, I'm not ready to teach because I don't know it all yet, you're never going to fulfill your potential of who you are as a teacher of teachers. Because the students that we have are our teachers as well. The teachers that we have are our students as well. Of course, we don't want to teach something we don't know. We don't want to teach aspects of things that we don't know. Let me put it that way. So, for example, I assume since you're watching this that you are a student of and interested in tarot and oracle cards. And maybe you don't know everything, but you know something. And you are able to teach that something that you do know to others. Being very clear of what you don't know, which is wonderful. There are so few people, even Rachel Pollack and Mary Greer will admit that there are things about tarot that they are still learning and things that they don't know, and yet they are superb, magnificent, the best teachers I know, almost the best, one among the group of best teachers I know. Another, Christine Payne-Towler, is one of those, and I'm sure Christine Payne-Towler is still a student of tarot as she teaches. So, it's not waiting until you know everything to teach is poor advice, I believe. But we want to discern. I know this and I can teach this. I don't know that and I I will admit, I don't know that, and we can learn about that together. That's how we move past the devil card. It's how we embody the King of Pentacles. And so, in combination with this, we have hope. And this is a beautiful card. Reminds me of that movie, that animated movie, Dragon Tale, maybe? I've forgotten the name of Dragon Rider. Anyways, there was an animated dragon movie that this creature here reminds me of. And this is the hope card. And we see a human figure and a dragon here interacting together, reminding us that we are not alone. We are not alone. There are physical beings here to help us co-create our experiences as we help co-create theirs. There are uncountable beings in the non-physical also co-creating with us, supporting us, showing us signs, giving us knowledge, making themselves available for our growth. The unity of self and the divine is unbreakable. The unity of self, this human-focused self, the greater eternal self that we are, and the self of the divine is unbreakable. We are never alone. And so there is always hope. There's always help. There's always support. And sometimes the path is difficult. Sometimes it is, and sometimes that difficulty is of benefit for us. It's not that somebody's put difficulties in our path. We selected the path to move in the direction of those difficulties, as I understand it. But those difficulties are a benefit for us. That's how we grow and evolve. And Spirit, the divine, believes in our courageous hearts that we can do anything that we have moved ourselves in the direction of. We can survive. We will survive. We will survive these physical bodies. We will survive, but we can do whatever it is that we encounter because we're ready for it. If it's there, we're ready for it. We might still be learning to get ourselves around it or through it or above it or below it, but we are ready for it when it is there. And Spirit, the divine, believes in our courageous hearts, in your courageous heart. Do you believe in your courageous heart? I do. You have a courageous heart. And you can do it. I can do it. We can too. We can believe in our hearts as well. And what a blessed message for us to receive in this spread about beginnings. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that an amazing spread? I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? So friends, if you're still here, hit that thumbs up button so YouTube knows that you got something out of it and this was meaningful for you and other people might get something out of it as well. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed and hit the alarm bell so you know when I upload videos. Make sure you get that your notifications are turned on. And also comment below. I would really love to hear from you. Does this make sense? What do you think of this spread? What do you think of, if you've been here before, what do you think of this spread in relationship to the Ace of Swords based spread? Do you like one better than the other? Do you like them both equally? I'd love to hear from you. Would you like me to do a series of spreads based on the other two aces in this deck as well later on, perhaps? Let me know. And if you want a private reading from me, it can be short, it can be long, whatever you want. It could be by video, it could be by Zoom, it could be by photo and email, it could be any way you want. If you want a reading from me, send me an email. My email address is below, and we can work out a way to get you a reading. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.